he says, oh, that's nothing, you know. It's only a time and material words. There is no really magic to all these things. You know? I said, what could you care? You know, the guy cannot even be happy for what he got. At that time, the guy who has a lot of money, he's feeling inferior. So to make himself polished up, he has to put somebody else down. What is this? This is beggarship, right? A king who cannot stand somebody else's wealth is a beggar. He's still not reached to that state yet, right? So we have to realize that we are kings within, inside, and that comes only by your own exploration. You have to know deep inside that you have everything you want and more. And that satisfaction will come only if you experience that state. Without that, it's, no matter how much you talk to each other, how much you try to teach each other, it doesn't happen. There was a story of a king who got angry on his son. He was the only son. And something happened, and he kicked him out. He says, you're out. Now you have nothing to do with this kingdom. You go and make your own living. Now, he was the son of a king. He never knew how to make a living. He was so raised in a rich palace and everything. So, but king was tough. He says, this is my decision. You got to leave the house. So the guy goes, and he had no really skill to make a living. So he starts begging. And people throw dime here and dime there. And he, after, needless to say, 6 months, a year, he's all in worn out clothes. Shoes are worn out. So after 2-3 years, when the king was about on the way out, he was dying. He says, I'm going to forgive him, bring him back. Now, nobody knew where he went. So the ministers were sent out. So finally, it was really even difficult to recognize him because he was all wretched conditions. He had lost a lot of weight. He's, was looking like a beggar. So finally, they found him. One of the ministers recognized him. And what he was doing was begging and, walking without the shoes. And he had a lot of blisters on the feet and all that. And so they went and told him, he says, King has forgiven you. So you please come back to the palace and you will be our next king. This is all he needed. He threw away his bhuksha patra and he says, he orders, bring me nice clothes, bring me nice food. I want this and I want that. Internal realization is all it takes. You have to know inside that you are the king. When you are the king, why would you care for anything?
Anything.
So when you are in that state of bliss, why would you want anything that will disturb that state, right? That's what we are talking about. We have one patient, American patient, she has been meditating for a long time, right? And she has a high cholesterol. And we talked about, giving up the dairy products, at least, maybe not chicken or fish, at least dairy products. I can't do that. He says, why? Because I love cheese. I thought, after, almost 30 years she has been meditating or something. She's like in mid-60s. So she loves meditation. They get together once a month. Of course, they do it every day. For all those times of meditation, I can understand that she has not reached that state. That desire still binding you. If you are in that tranquil state of bliss, whatever you do outside, you realize the futility of it. Right? On the snowstorm, Chirag told me, he says, oh, you have to pick up the DVDs and watch the movies, right? I said, no, I can do something better than that. I said, movies are fake. That's not real. But when I go into spirituality, that's real. That's the real thing. But the difference between real and unreal only comes with experience. So that's why it's more important to spend more and more time with yourself. And then you realize what lies within. There is a gem, there is a diamond, there is a Kohinoor there. And when that is the real thing, all the other things compared to that seems unreal. So even if you spend 2, 3, 4, 5 hours watching a movie, at the end, you get up empty-handed. What did that do for you? Nothing, it just crushed your time. But you wasted time too. You could have spent with Paramatma, right? But again,
that's not easy to do.
It's not a doing, right?
The flower and weeds. That's
right.
not easy. That's
exactly
difficult.
Right. That's right. Whatever is easy way out is the weed.
Weed.
Wherever you have to work at it is the flower. So the problem is the knowledge and all this material exposure brings with you a lot of egos, and you use these egos to justify yourself and project yourself in a different than what you are inside. So it's like your behavior does not become the same thing as what you are inside. So the fakeness comes in your attitude, fakeness comes in your behavior, and fakeness comes in your talk. With the knowledge you can twist things around, and you can use the knowledge, but you're losing the innocence. You're losing that genuinity inside. Your truthness, your pureness, your innocence inside is gone. Because now that I'm smart, I can use my knowledge to justify myself. I can argue, I can make some logics with you and finally prove myself right. But we don't realize we are hurting ourselves inside, right? So we had a joke about Mullah Nasruddin's son when he goes to the university and then finally he gets a graduation degree, comes home, right? And then he says, Mom, I learned the logic. Now mom is innocent. Mom always believes in sons all the time, right? Moms are closer to God. God won't say, okay, no problem. Whatever you say, yes. But dads have something else. Dad can argue. So he says, so what did you learn in your university? He says, we learned logic. He says, what do you mean? He says, I'll prove. He says, there are 2 mangoes. I'll prove that there are 3. He says, how? He says, this is mango 1. This is mango 2. 2 and 1. 3. So the mom gets impressed. The dad says, okay, your mom will eat mango 1, I'll eat mango 2, you eat mango 3. So the logic is empty. Logic does not take you anywhere. Logic is only swimming in the kiddie pool. You're not in the depths of the ocean. The purity, the richness of your inside is gone when you use your knowledge to prove things. It just may make you gain few extra dollars here and there, may make you yourself prove right or wrong, but those things are not worth it. You know, there was one story of, so there were few people had gathered around near a mosque, and they were watching what people are doing, you know, just their behaviors. So as they were watching, one guy is coming, he has a very expensive looking shoes. He leaves them outside and goes. And in India, shoes get stolen all the time. So he goes inside, he comes out. Luckily his shoes did not get stolen. And then, so they were kind of curious. Said, why would he leave expensive shoes like this outside, unattended, right? So they asked him, he says, why did you do this? We're just curious. So he says that, I know my shoes are expensive, and I know they could be a target for stealing, but I wanted to be away from that area, and somebody who is needy is the one who will be stealing. So I did not want to keep an eye on it all the time, so I would let them steal. Maybe it will come in handy for somebody who is poor, and they can sell those shoes or whatever, and they can be happy. But I did not want to come in that process, so that I left it outside without, having any kind of attendance or anything like that. Okay, that sounds good. So a few minutes later, another guy comes in, and his shoes are very ratchet looking. What he does is he puts them under the arm and takes them inside the mosque, and then he comes out. Now that was kind of odd too. So they asked him, he says, your shoes are so lousy looking, and why would you take so much attention and care of such shoes? So he says that, yes, I could have left them outside, and yes, they were not really that great looking, but still somebody might have a desire to steal. I did not want to be a part of that desire. So by living outside, if somebody steals it, that's bad karma. I didn't want anybody to accumulate bad karmas, so that I did not leave any chance so that they can steal the shoes. Well, that sounds logical too. So they were really impressed. So there was an old man standing nearby. So he was telling them, he said, I've been watching you guys, watching everybody else, and looks like you guys very impressed with the people's intentions. But I know both these people. The first guy is a show-off. All he does is wants to show off everybody. And he gets attention. So by leaving the shoes outside, he was making the whole world know that he's wearing expensive shoes. He says, what about the second guy? The second guy is a miser. He does not want to give up anything in life. Even the wretched looking shoes he's going to carry with him, right? He says, while we were doing all these things, you did not even notice a third guy. He says, who was that third guy? He says, that third guy came without shoes. He had no shoes. There is no need for shoes. You know you have to take them out at the mosque. So there is no need for that. He walked from home barefoot. He went inside, came out. He did not even pay attention. And I know that he donated his shoes to someone else this morning who really needed them. Now, what seems apparent does not have to be apparent. There are a lot of things behind the so-called outside behavior of people. So inside is what counts. So superficiality takes you nowhere. So that's why the knowledge can be used to inflate your ego and acquire a lot of material things, fame, recognitions, and all these things. So knowledge is used to justify your behaviors, but inside you may be a totally different person. So cleansing needs to be done within.
There was a fourth guy also. It was a Sindhi guy.
Right, of course. While these people were talking, no, he stole the rest of the shoes.
No, he had a good shoes. He put one in one corner and other in the other corner, and nobody can find. And nobody wanted to steal the one shoe.
I thought he was in the process of taking the shoes.
What about fifth Gujarati guy?
So the moral of the story is that knowledge is not important.
Sindhis are smart.
Knowledge is not that important. Knowledge can help you make a living in the life, but knowledge is not going to take you to Paramatma. By splitting our personalities, we are not going anywhere. Mullah Nasruddin was traveling in a train. He was in the upper berth, and there was another guy in the lower berth. So Mullah Nasruddin, he said, oh, I almost forgot to ask you, where are you going? He says, I'm going to Bombay. Oh, what a miracle. He says, why? Look at the technology. I'm in the upper berth, I'm going to Calcutta. And you are in lower, but you're going to Bombay. What a beautiful technology. The upper berth is going to Calcutta, the lower berth is going to at the same time. And then he went to sleep. So, but we are like Mullah Nasruddin. Our upper berths are going somewhere else, and lower berths are going somewhere else. So when you are in the quest of Paramatma, you have to be sincere, you have to be genuine. Though fakeness will not help you take you anywhere. And that knowledge is going to make your personality fake. And that fake personality does not take you anywhere. We have to realize the futility of those exercises. You have to be innocent, like a child. Then only you are reaching somewhere. So what we do is, we give big people's names. Like if I do something and somebody else is doing it, then we justify our actions to give an example of somebody else. And then we say, because he is doing such and such thing, I'm doing such and such thing. Then we have always studies to prove that alcohol is good for you. But we don't look at the studies which says that alcohol is bad for you. We never think about all these things. See, we always try to justify whatever it takes for me to continue my behavior. Right? We had discussion with one guy. You know, it's very sad in a way. Like, we were at a party with this guy who was 46 years old. He used to be my patient. Then he moved to Pennsylvania. And his sister lives in our complex. So at one time we got together at the party, and I didn't drink, so he started asking me questions. I said, just because you are asking me, I'll get into that, but otherwise I don't get into this discussion at the party level. That's for sure. Because it's not worth it, right?
A waste of time.
It is a waste of time. So, but he did. He kept on asking me, and then finally, after half an hour, he had no arguments left. He says, you're right, I should not drink. But you know what? Shankar Bhagwan also drinks. So I'm going to drink.
Shankar Bhagwan does a lot of other things.
The sad part is that guy died.
Oh.
A year later, he's somewhere in South Jersey. He was driving on Route 95 and he met death. He had a single car accident. He I'm not saying for drinking or anything, but it happens.